Dozens of Palestinian civilians, most of them children and women, were killed and others were wounded in a series of raids launched by occupation warplanes on Wednesday on various sites in the Gaza Strip. In Argentina, social and union organizations protest in Buenos Aires in rejection of the liberal emergency decree signed by new President Javier Milei. And the United Nations stated the impact of the conflict in Sudan was serious, particularly in terms of access to medical care. Hello, welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. Dozens of Palestinian civilians, most of them children and women, were killed and others were wounded in a series of raids launched by occupation warplanes on Wednesday on various sites in the Gaza Strip. In the 82nd consecutive day of the aggression, in the occupation aircraft launched violent raids targeting the central region of the Gaza Strip, especially the Bureik and Al-Maghazi camps, where the shells reached shelter centers. Al-Nusrat camp also saw bombardment by occupation artillery and warplanes targeting family homes. Meanwhile, the areas east of the city of Rafah and Khan Yunis in the south of the Gaza Strip are also being targeted. In Gaza City, more than 60 citizens were missing as a result of Israeli bombing near Al-Azhar University, and 6 people were killed as a result of sniper operations. Israeli attacks since October 7th have killed at least 19,650 Palestinians, a non-final toll hampered by conditions in the Strip. On top of the constant Israeli attacks on Gaza, all forms of communication in the region have been cut off for the 7th time since the beginning of the Israeli siege. TeleSUR correspondent Nur Harasin tells us all the details from the ground.
The communication, internet, landlines, everything has cut in Gaza over the past 18 hours. We were isolated from the whole world for the 7th time since the 7th of October. And this is because of 2 main reasons. The first one is the continuous Israeli attacks on the main points that provide the network for people in Gaza. The second one is because of the lack of fuel, and there is no electricity for the network companies here to facilitate and work on getting back the service for the people, and also because of the danger on the teams of the network companies to go around. Actually, a few days ago, we reported the injury of several workers at Baltel, which is the main network here in Gaza, as they were trying to fix one of the internet lines in southern Gaza. However, we are back now. This problem, the internet problem, is like Gaza has been isolated from the whole world, and it is not only about journalists and activists and influencers not being able to tell the news of what is happening in Gaza or share the stories here on the ground, but also it is adding to the struggle of those people in Gaza over the past hours. And as Israel was heavily attacking Gaza, all of the people who are injured or who are stuck, they did not manage to call the ambulances or call the hospitals to come and rescue them. Only now the civil forces and the paramedics managed to get out from the hospital. They are going in tours around the main streets of southern and middle Gaza to, in a way, to evacuate as many people as they can and bring them here to the hospital. Nur Harazin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
In the midst of the Israeli blockade in Gaza, Egyptian citizens denounced the illegal detentions at the Rafah border crossing. In view of the intensification of the attacks of the Israeli occupation forces in the Gaza Strip, Egyptian citizens fled again to their country. These citizens denounced that despite carrying their Egyptian passports and identity cards, they remain trapped at the Rafah border crossing because they are not allowed to cross to their country. Some of these people have been sleeping on chairs outside the crossing terminal, waiting for the chance to return to the homeland. The Rafah crossing has been the coastal enclave's only portal to the outside world since the Israeli attacks began on October 7th.
We have been sleeping here on the chairs for 25 days. There is no solution for us. Every day and every week there are lists of travelers who are allowed to cross. But we are surprised that they are not Egyptians, but Palestinians with passports. Why? We are originally Egyptians and we have Egyptian passports. We were born in Egypt. Why are we being treated this way? We want to go back to our country to take care of our work and return to our homeland.
On the first day of the war, I rescued the children from under the rubble. What are we waiting for? We will wait until we are martyrs to have our names on the list of crosses? Few need mercy, for God's sake. It is not because of me. It is because of the children who lost their future. I don't need anything else. I need someone to intervene, anyone to intervene. The Emirates Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for God's sake. I still have valid residence. My children and I lived there for more than 12 years.
In Palestine, Prime Minister Mohammed Stayed, during a cabinet meeting in Ramallah, said that Israel is doomed to exist as a criminal state that violates the rights of Palestinian people.
Israel today is condemned before the world as a criminal and lawless state that kills with the intent to kill, starving people, making them thirsty until they die and displacing them to death. Israel today is at the rock bottom, and those who flock to support it in the early events have today become ashamed of it and have disavowed their support.
In this context, the Palestinian Prime Minister also called on the United Nations to deliver humanitarian aid to the population and thanked the Arab countries for their efforts in seeking a solution to the conflict, especially Egypt.
I call on the United Nations to work to deliver aid from all the crossings leading to the Gaza Strip, which are 5 crossings, and I welcome the decision of the UN Secretary General to appoint Ms. Sigrid Kaag as a special coordinator for international aid to the Gaza Strip. We welcome all Arab and international efforts to stop the aggression against our people and the amended Egyptian initiative. Egypt is certainly interested in the unity of Palestinian representation and that any regional or international agreement passes only through Palestinian legitimacy, represented in the Palestine Liberation Organization.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In Argentina, social and union organizations began marches on Wednesday to the courthouse in Buenos Aires in rejection of the emergency mega decree signed by new President Javier Milei. The protest began at noon local time with the participation of different workers' union groups and social movements. The demonstrators gathered to show their dissatisfaction with the 366 measures introduced by an emergency decree which deregulates the economy and repeals multiple laws, some of them labor laws, in an attempt to bypass the Congress. Social organizations also protest the government's decision not to renew state contracts signed after January 1st, 2023, which affects more than 7,000 workers. The concentration was called by Argentina's Central Workers Union with the purpose of accompanying the judicial filing of the union that seeks to stop the scope of the decree signed by President Javier Milei. Bolivian prosecutors on Tuesday filed formal charges against 8 people, including former de facto President Janine Áñez and opposition leader Luis Fernando Camacho. The charges seek to put the defendant on trial for the case known as Coup 1, which led to the ouster of former President Evo Morales in 2019. In this sense, the prosecutor's office requested that all those involved in the case be sentenced to the maximum penalty for the crime of terrorism, which is 20 years in prison. Camacho is currently in preventive detention since December 28, 2022, while 3 other defendants are still fugitives from justice.
We are requesting the maximum penalty for the most serious crime, which is the crime of terrorism, that has been included in the indictments as the crime attribute. The persons accused in the indictment are Mr. Luis Fernando Camacho Vaca, Marco Antonio Pumari Arriaga, Luis Fernando López Julio, Williams Carlos Calimán Romero, Mr. Vladimir Yuri Calderón, Giannine Áñez Chávez. The crime of terrorism contemplates a penalty of 15 to 20 years imprisonment, so this will be the penalty that the public prosecutor's office at the time of the trial. At the conclusion stage, pleadings in any case will request the court hearing the trial to impose on the defendants.
Russia's Central Election Commission on Wednesday accepted the candidacy of Nikolai Konov, a representative of the Russian Communist Party for the next year's presidential elections. Nikolai Konov is a Russian politician from the Novosibirsk region. He was a leading member of the Agrarian Party of Russia and a deputy in the Russian parliament. In 2004, he also ran for the presidency and finished second with 13.7% of the total vote. The Communist Party of Russia is the second largest party in the parliament, behind United Russia, which is the largest party in the federation. This holds 72.22% of the 450 seats in the State Duma as of 2022, having formed the majority in the chamber since 2007. Russian presidential elections will be held in March 2024. And the governments of Russia and India signed new bilateral agreements as part of the strengthening of the strategic partnership. The agreement was signed by Indian Foreign Minister Subramanian Janyaskar and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov during a meeting held this Wednesday in the Eurasian country. The agreement relates to the areas of nuclear energy, medicines, and other pharmaceutical substances, as well as medical devices. The Indian Foreign Minister described the agreement as comprehensive and productive for the strengthening of the bilateral strategic partnership. The Russian Foreign Minister, for his part, highlighted the stable and reliable relations between the two nations and stated that they will continue to work to move forward in relation to the current conditions.
We discussed the prospects for military technical cooperation, including the joint production of modern types of weapons. Here, too, there are concrete moves forward. Our interaction in this direction is also strategic in nature. Its deepening corresponds to the national interests of our states, their interests on maintaining security of the Eurasian continent.
Meanwhile, India's Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar described the relationships with Russia as strong, while stressing the joint responsibility to keep up with a special and privileged strategic partnership.
The tradition of annual meetings between our leaders is something that we value very greatly. And as someone who's seen it over the last decade, I can attest to its enormous value. I'm very confident that we will see an annual summit next year. Again, ours is really a relationship which at every level, starting with the strong relationship between the leaders to right down to the popular level, the societal sentiment. I think we have really very positive feelings for each other. And I think that's a really big source of strength for the relationship.
And we have a second short break coming up. But before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly, and also you can share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The United Nations called the impact in the conflict in Sudan serious, particularly in the case of access to medical care. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs expressed concern over the more than 100% increase in cholera cases during the last month of the year. The situation is alarming, with some 8,300 suspected cases and more than 200 deaths reported up to December 23rd. The UN highlighted that the humanitarian community in Sudan is working to support cholera detection and treatment, as well as vaccination campaigns, but ongoing fighting is hampering efforts.
Currently, 70% of the health system in Sudan is out of service as a result of wars and as a result of the destruction of healthcare facilities. We are facing a great task and a great challenge in providing service to all of Sudan. Now, all of Sudan is in Port Sudan. And this is a great challenge. The service delivery times are limited and not suitable for this number of displaced people. There is a shortage in the supply of medicines. We suffer greatly in providing treatment for people with all disease and with cases of severe diarrhea. There are many challenges. We are doing what we can, and we hope that international organizations will help us more so that we can tackle these infections and can control them.
And Christmas in Syria is not a day of celebration only for the Christian community. It is a day of joy for all members of the diversified Syrian society, which, despite the hardships of war and blockade, celebrate the occasion more united than ever. From Damascus, Hisham Wanus with this Christmas story.
The family of Ibrahim Kasucha, a native of the central province of Homs, is celebrating Christmas in the coastal city of Latakia, where, like hundreds of Syrian Christian families, its members are living as internally displaced people because of the terrorism that has been ravaging their country for more than 12 years. Although overwhelmed by this harsh reality, they refuse to be deprived of living the joy of Jesus Christ's birth, with the full of hope of one day to return to their places of origin to celebrate the event.
It is true that we are displaced, but we always try to enjoy this season of festivities and create a Christmas atmosphere for our children, because the birthday of our Lord, the Messiah, is the date of the propagation of peace throughout the world. It is the celebration of kindness, and therefore we try to continue to be kind, by offering love and peace from the depth of our hearts, in spite of all the difficult conditions that we are going through.
Christmas is a festivity for love. It is the celebration of the birth of our Lord, the Messiah, the messenger of love and peace, and it is a reason for joy and worship. For besides praying, we visit our relatives, friends, and neighbors to exchange greetings. And we implore God on this day that the next festivities be full of goodness and peace in our country, and that conditions be better than they are now.
The Syrian provinces have celebrated Christmas again in their places of worship, which in several parts of Syria have been among the main targets of terrorist attacks. Places where they value very highly that thanks to the sacrifice made by the Syrian Arab troops, they can now practice in peace and security the rituals of the occasion and implored God to return their country to the way it was before 2011, the day of the outbreak of the terrorist war against them.
I would like to extend my greetings on this day to the whole world and to my brothers in Syria and Gaza, and God willing, we will say goodbye to this year and welcome a more prosperous new one. Because despite of the difficulties we are going through, especially the economic crisis, we celebrate Christmas and thank God that we have regained security and peace.
This year, we have unfortunately limited the Christmas celebrations to masses and prayers in solidarity with our brothers in Gaza, victims of the brutal Israeli aggression, and in recognition of the sacrifices made by the martyrs of our national army, that thanks to them, we can now celebrate Christmas, the birth of the messenger of love and peace, the peace that on this occasion We implore God to reign in our land and across the world.
Terrorism alien to the ancient civilized culture of the Syrian people couldn't, together with its Western sponsors, destroy Syrian society and sow discord among the members of its different religious sects, a harmony that is expressed in its most beautiful forms in the fraternal exchange of greeting between Syrian Christians and Muslims during this season of December celebrations.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories at our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.